All right, welcome back everybody to episode 4 of Ask the Collective. Rich Brubaker here, founder of Collective Responsibility. Really happy to be back. We have 4 fantastic questions for you today, but before I get into that, I kind of want to talk a little about the fact that, we're putting these out. What we're really trying to do is inspire and equip you to take a next step. I really don't want this to be a channel just about talking without action. So please do me a favor, ask me tactical questions if you're a CSR professional, if you're an executive, if you're an entrepreneur. Help me help you, give you answers that maybe take you a little bit forward, move you from inspiration to action. Because as you'll probably have noticed from the media, from studies that are coming out, from wherever you're looking for your news, the challenges are real. And what we need to do is really come together, work on business models for sustainability, and drive solutions to scale. I'm really happy to be participating in this, but I really want to make sure that this is bringing value to you and helping to solve problems at the end of the day. So with that, I want to get to the first question.
JP Wack asks, how did electric scooter and motorbike adoption happen in China? Any comparison between cities still using gas-powered scooters with those using electric?
So JP, it's an interesting question because I think 2 days ago, Mobike, which is China's largest kind of bike sharing app or provider, they just raised a Series D from Foxconn and Temasek for about $300 million US. Now, they've been definitely leading, and what's been fun to watch or interesting to watch is how over the last year, maybe 18 months, you've gone to seeing a few bikes and a few people seeing it to thousands of bikes all over the city, to probably the hipster, yuppie, young professional Chinese community riding these, to everyone. I mean, you'll see migrant laborers, you'll see grandmothers, you'll see kids, everyone's riding these bikes. And at the same time, you have multiple competitors coming into the market. So I think right now there's 4. There's orange is Mobike, yellow is Ofo, there's a blue and a green one. The green one came out as an electric bike, so a very interesting dynamic. And to be honest, I don't think anyone knows what the end game is. I don't know how any of these companies are making money. But what's interesting is that I'm sure at some level people are being not just brought onto the system and riding more bikes and finding more convenience in the last kilometer, but they won't be buying their own bikes anymore. They may not buy motorcycles. They may find that a car is no more convenient than taking the metro and then taking a shared bike. So I find that to be really encouraging, and regardless of whether or not these companies make any money, I think it's going to be doing a lot for getting people onto bikes again in China. Electric scooters versus petrol scooters, China has been in certain cities very aggressively taking these scooters off the market. Shenzhen was first. I remember seeing parking lots of confiscated petrol scooters. Shanghai actually had passed a regulation saying that you couldn't get the license plate anymore for the petrol scooters, which basically meant that in the very near future, these are technically going to all be illegal bikes, which means they can technically be confiscated just for being on the road. And Shanghai, you've seen a lot of electric bikes coming online from you. I have one as well, and they're just really convenient, really quiet, and they help you get through the city probably better than anything else, except for maybe a shared bike.
Shelby Hughes asks, how is globalization, specifically of Western media, going to influence the social dynamics in China and its sustainability?
Shelby, really interesting question, especially given the light that a lot of countries now are trying to back away from globalization, or there seems to be a pushback towards it. I think there's a few ways to answer this. And the first one is, if there was a way for globalization to influence the Chinese in any way, be it culturally or otherwise, it would be through the wealth factor, through the fact that they are now becoming more and more wealthy, and they're spending more of that money overseas, traveling, importing food, expecting higher qualities of education, doing health tourism, or just asking for a better quality here. So it's not necessarily globalization, it's much more about just the economic development of China. And then as the development happens, they're reaching out globally to learn more, to travel more, to experience more, and then they're bringing expectations back home. And I think that that's probably the most natural way and maybe the healthiest way for this to occur is over time. But more directly, social media, and maybe even taking that wider to just the media itself, I don't really think that there's a a huge case or huge argument to say that these mediums or these stories have the ability to influence China at mass. There might be stories about, say, Foxconn and labor that influence Apple and its labor practices, but you're not going to see a massive transformation in China's culture, history, or expectations just based on their interaction with social media, especially because they block all the majors that we are used to, be it Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Google search, whatever it may be. And that's partly why the government's invested so much time and energy into making sure that they're the master curator of this information. So I think that at the end of the day, social media impact, potential for impact, quite limited, although you might see a story or two really pop through the system. But it's more just the general, amassing of wealth and seeing what's overseas and expecting to have the same clean air, water, food, accessible education, and healthcare that they have in other parts of the world.
Ralph Thurm asks, analyzing China's latest 5-year plan, what points are clearly attributable to sustainable development? How will it affect the GDP and help move towards a circular economy?
Ralph, this is a touchy question because it's easy to be cynical and say nothing. Going back to episode 1 where we asked a kind of a similar question about circular economy and the role of the government to drive that, I guess my short answer is that the 5-year plan, and we looked at this and we'll provide a link down below. There's so many issues that the 5-year plan is covering, from healthcare, education, energy, food safety, the gamut. So there is no grand thesis or grand strategy that is sustainability. It's very siloed into specific issues and specific targets, and then ways of incentivizing, disincentivizing different actions or investments. And I think that that's actually the right way to go. I do not believe that everything in the 5-year plan will be achieved, and specifically across the entire country itself. But actions will be taken at the local level. It could be in the tier 1 cities of Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou. It could be in tier 2, which is your provincial capitals, or further down. It could be as a grouping, or it could be individually, largely based on the mayors and what they're individually seeing through their populace, through their cities, through their economies. Now, at the wider level, and on the second part of your question about GDP and circular economy, we're doing a lot of work right now around waste, and there's a lot of bad news in terms of how much individuals waste, companies waste, and processes waste. I mean, if I look at the food chain, between 40 and 60% of food is wasted before it even gets to me, the consumer. And that's because the system itself is just set up to be very inefficient. China uses double the amount of energy for 1 unit of GDP of most Western nations because their buildings are inefficient, their economy is inefficient. We recently did a retail waste study where we just saw 10 tons of steel being taken out of one store, and they do that on a regular basis. And this isn't counting how many units of their product gets thrown away by themselves or by their consumer. So there's a lot of embedded waste here. But on the good side, through that waste study actually, and through other studies that we've done, what you see is there's a high level of recycling happening here. Not just formally, informally, because there's an economic incentive. And so what we saw was, like, say, in e-commerce, people worried about packaging and boxes. Here, same problem, probably even at a higher scale than Western Europe or the US. But they're taking this stuff back. These boxes are going down the trash chute, onto some guy's bike, and into a paper and pulp manufacturer that within 3 to 5 days turn into a new box. Now, it's not circular in the fact that it still needs energy, chemicals, etc. But China has made boxes, or the paper and pulp industry, very valuable from a recycling standpoint, and that's feeding back into the industry. So the resource intensity is coming down because of that. And that's true of a lot of different things in terms of plastics and metals. You'll find very little recyclable materials in the landfill here. And so from the landfill's perspective, that's quite good. But still, from the economic perspective, as I was mentioning earlier, they have a lot of work to do. I honestly don't know how much that will be driven by the 5-year plan, but I definitely know that as the economy gets more expensive, as resources get more expensive, as externalities, the negative externalities of an economy are known, valued, and priced in the market properly, all these things start to happen, and all these goals can be met.
And finally, Ben Eggy asks, I'm organizing a fundraiser, but I don't really have a network of the kinds of people who are interested in charities and fundraisers. I don't know of a good foundation to direct proceeds to. Having never done any events like this in China before, I don't know if there are any legal issues I need to be aware of.
So Ben, a couple of good questions here. And first off, I just want to commend you for finding ways to get involved in the community. And I don't know what issue you're working with. I don't know what level of fundraising you're looking to do for this issue or for this organization, but I have a few thoughts. First off is, don't worry about the legal aspects of this. I'm not saying do something illegal, but if you find the right partner, and you're supporting them, and they're a legal partner, they have their NGO license, they have a public fundraising license, would be even better. But if you're working with a proper partner and it's a real kind of joint venture, or you're working for them as an employee, you shouldn't worry about the legal aspects of this. And so first off, just set that aside and focus more on the fact of, you say you're fundraising, but you have no experience, you have no network, and I'm going to guess that means that your experience with the issue itself is also lacking at least in China. Maybe you're coming from overseas and you have a lot of experience there, but you don't have it here. And I think you're trying to climb a very tough hill, because there's a lot of things happening in the cities and the country overall when it comes to fundraising. So I guess my question or my challenge would be like, why do you feel like you should do this on your own when you have no resources, no experience, and no partner? Why not actually just go find a partner and offer your help to them on an existing event to do the production, do what you know well? Because if you don't have a network, then fundraising is difficult. But maybe you have a different skill in project management. Maybe you work for a wine company and you can help them to find the caterers. Find a way that actually, as a starting point, leverages what you do know and what you're capable of executing on at a high level, and then learn through that process. Maybe actually through this fundraiser, you meet 5, 10 donors who you could then introduce to your idea, who may back your idea, or who may just come to your fundraiser and give 1,000 RMB or 100 US dollars, whatever it may be. But don't, so I guess my short answer is like, don't try and bite too much at once. Just start with what you know, start with what you can do, and learn over time, because hopefully this is something that you want to continue over time. And if that's true, then just take it step by step. And over time, as you gain a network, as you gain knowledge, as you gain partners, it all gets a lot easier. But not just easier, the impact is much greater to the community overall. And that, at the end of the day, is the purpose of a fundraiser, to bring impact to an organization, to the community. So I hope that answers your question. I hope you're not too frustrated. I don't know if this has already gone off in the meantime since you asked me the question, because it's been a few months. But if there's anything I can do to help you, introduce you to people, introduce you to organizations, please let us know either through the comments or direct message me later on. So with that, we have wrapped up the 4th episode of Ask the Collective. If you enjoyed this, please like it and share it with your friends. But if you have a question, now that we've done 4 of these, you kind of know the format. If you have a question that we can answer for you at a personal, organizational, or just an academic level, please ask us down below, send a direct message to myself, hit hashtag #AskTheCollective on any of your social medias, and we'll find it and we'll be happy to answer it for you. Thank you and have a great week.